This episode is brought to you by Kimia and Nejat with Exit Realty Metro.
Kimia and Nejat is an experienced real estate agent who prides herself in finding the perfect home for her clients. Kimia can help you with a comparative market analysis to help determine the value of your home if you're planning on selling, or help you determine the going rate for the neighborhood you're moving into. She can also work with you at your pace.
You can reach Kimia by calling 902-880-8429 or email kimia@exitmetro.ca.
Also, you can find her on Facebook at Kimia Nejat, Exit Realty Metro. This is Matt Conrad.
And this is Mike Tobin.
Welcome to the Afternoon Pint.
Today's guests are Blake and Christine from the Campbell and Johnston Black Market Band. Please stay until the end of the show to hear their song Righteous from their upcoming album Paisley Heart. You can find their music on Spotify, Apple Music, or check their Facebook page to catch their next live show. Enjoy.
Righteous, righteous, righteous for one person to be.
Cheers!
Cheers!
Welcome to the Afternoon Pint. I'm Mike Tobin.
And I am Matt Conrad.
And who do we have with us today?
I'm Blake Johnston.
I'm Christine Campbell.
And you guys are the band Campbell and Johnston Black Market Band.
We are.
Did I say that perfectly?
You did.
No
Yes.
corrections?
No corrections.
Excellent.
That's a first.
Thank you. I was a fan of your music that brought me into saying, gee, I wonder if those guys would come on the show. And we sent out a request and kept bugging you, making sure you were coming. And you guys showed up, so we're really happy you're here.
Who's this weird guy bugging us?
Who's this strange man that says he'd come on my podcast in the back of a brewery? Yeah. Sounds very like a creepy invite.
Totally.
Yeah,
exactly.
But thanks for
Opening
coming.
the freezer.
Yeah, put the lotion in the basket.
Yeah, we're just back here, guys. Thank you for
A
coming.
little bit further.
Yeah.
A little bit further down the hall.
So we're back at Great Roads Brewing here in Sackville, and today we're drinking, we got a couple of red IPAs on the table. We have a Maisel on the table, and just enjoying a casual drink. We had Diet Coke on the table. You know, this show's open to everyone. You don't have to drink to be here or enjoy the show. We're just happy you're here. So anyways, I'm going to start with you, Christine. Mm-hmm. So when I follow YouTube, okay, and I go back on the YouTube chronologically, I'll see that Christine kind of had some songs, and then you kind of started popping into the picture at some point, right? And it seems like you stuck together because you guys are celebrating, today's January 18th, and tomorrow you guys are doing your 9th anniversary. It's the sold-out show at the Carlton. Isn't it?
Yeah, it's our 9th anniversary as a couple. But it just happens to be on the day that we're going to the Carlton.
Oh, so it's your couple anniversary, not the band anniversary.
Maybe I should clarify
I
that.
got that
I wonder
twisted.
if people mix that up
I totally
too.
got that twisted. And I was actually, because I like trying to know a little bit about you guys. I didn't like your backstory before I see you.
Before I kill you.
That's all part of the fantasy. You looked like when on YouTube years you came in the picture, I don't know, 6-7 years ago musically. Was that
Probably,
accurate?
yeah.
We weren't that far off. Like, you had the Stogies, and then I had Stone Mary, and then we met with our bands. We each had, like, rock bands.
Okay.
The first time I remember meeting Chris, I don't know if this is for sure, but I think it was in PEI.
Yeah, you opened for
PEI
us.
was in Kentville. The first
No,
two times.
PEI was the first one.
One was at Hunter's, and then one was at Westside Charlie's.
Oh, okay.
This is the first time, yeah.
So the Stogies, tell us a bit about that.
Can I say, like, you know, how we met and, like, what you first said and, like...
Oh, yeah, we're definitely hearing
Yeah,
that.
sure. I
Do
mean,
you think it, like,
Soundbite.
This kind of sums up a lot of stuff. It's funny because I don't want to make you sound like a dick. Can I say that?
Yeah,
Okay.
Say whatever you want.
Just like when it was just funny because Blake is just like all about equality for anybody across the board. But that also means that you don't get any like free passes or anything. And the very first time we were at Stone Mary, he opened for us, and you were like, I think you were standing with two guys, and both of them like, whoa, she can rip guitar, and somebody else said the same thing, and you're like, she's not that great, or something like that.
it was something along the lines of like, she's all right, but she's not.
Yeah,
you
it
know,
wasn't
it's
like you didn't like diss me, but it was like kind of like, whatever. Like, but it was just funny because then we've always been like peers, and we've always
Guilty
been
as
honest with
charged.
each other.
It's
that doesn't
the
mean that he
truth.
doesn't say lots of like wonderful things, and we guide each other. But it was just funny because it was like, being a female, a lot of people come up to me too, and they're always like, "You're the best female guitar player I ever saw." And like, it's not. I don't take it as an insult now.
Sure.
I kind of actually did back in the day. But there's just not really a ton of females to compare it to. That's changing, and there's a lot of other women now
huge.
on the rise, and it's great, and I love that. But at the time, they're just, so it didn't really matter how good you were. There was no comparison. So
Yeah, well, it kind of goes in waves where there like a bunch of great female musicians emerge guitar playing, and then that wave kind of went down and went back up. Would you say that's accurate or no?
I don't know if I would agree. Maybe it was just that the focus wasn't on them, but for me in particular, I didn't feel like there was a lot of role models.
No, yeah.
And then I found, I think that's a lot to do with it. But then we found out like there's a band called Fanny where like there was just like this amazing musicianship. They're all females, and I don't know how they weren't like the biggest band ever. So maybe it really just was that they weren't getting recognized.
Where were they from? Here?
No,
From the States, but I think it was early 70s.
I'm not familiar with them. What was their name?
Fanny. They were
Fanny.
So good.
Cool.
Yeah, when you kind of trace back the different members, you can find out they were around like in the scene in general.
Okay.
But as a band, they never really quit. I think
Bonnie Raitt was like in all of them and everything. Like people that made it famous.
Within the musician community, they were respected, but they never quite. There's a good documentary about them.
Okay.
Find online. Fanny. Yeah.
Cool. I'll check that out.
I
Interesting.
don't think I saw the documentary. I gotta watch that.
Yeah.
But they are wicked, and I just think too, like when you're a female, if you learn a song by a rock band, like you have to like change the key a lot of times because it's guys singing in a low key. And
Sure.
That's always really fun when you have a nice wicked like key of E that you're
And then
playing like a low
you
note.
your fingers
and
in
then,
all these crazy effing ways just to play the song or whatever.
yeah, and
right?
you just have to make changes, and it's just it was kind of a boys' club, so that's definitely changing. But
In my defense, I mean, it's true, but I would have said that about like especially at that age, at whatever it was, 21, and just with a big old chip on my shoulder, thinking
music,
my shit doesn't
it's
stink.
friendly competition. I mean,
There is something there, and as
as
I've gotten older, as far as that part of it goes, you realize that it's like, look, we're all drawing water from the same well.
Well, we're doing this show now. We're 40. If we did this show 20 years ago, oh God, it would have been the cockiest son of a gun ever, right?
Yes.
I would have told everybody that they sucked, right? Just to try to feel better about myself, right?
Yeah.
But then I'm a little more chill now.
100%.
we're a little bit more
right?
enlightened too.
It's more. It's as far as what she's talking about with me goes, less of a male-female thing and more of the guitar player in the audience going, yeah, I could do it better.
Yeah.
That's just like the disease of guitar playing.
Sure.
At least when you're at that certain level where you're insecure about how much you know musically or what you can do, and there's always somebody better and there's always somebody worse than you. But when you're young, you're
she's
like,
okay. It wasn't that she wasn't so good, but it was just kind of like, but I didn't even know that story, and you thought I snubbed you, which I didn't. But for years, he thought like that I did, which I've never snubbed anybody. I do
if I'm
have
being
resting
honest,
bitch
going
face.
to the grave, I still kind of believe that.
I'm from PEI. I'm so polite. I'm so kind. I would never do that to anybody ever. But sometimes it might have been misconstrued because I've always been like a shy, introverted person with the resting bitch face syndrome. So I apologize if anybody ever thought that, but it did not happen.
That's great.
But I guess that with Blake, I was always kind of like a little jealous of him too, because when I first saw him, I was like, I don't want to follow that. He was one of the very few people I was just like astounded at his skills. I just always kind of thought he was the real deal a little bit.
Nice voice. I like the rasp. I like that in songs and music.
I've kind of lost it a little bit.
Yeah.
But,
You lost your
Both
voice a
don't
little
smoke
bit, or?
anymore.
Well,
so.
I was doing a lot of, I was having fun in my 20s. And, and I'm not really like, I don't like take care of myself as well as I should now.
Right.
But I did quit smoking, and things did change a little bit when that happened, as far as like, and I think I was blowing my voice out.
Yeah.
I wasn't singing properly.
Yeah.
I was
you
in my
guys know
20s.
like Buck 65? You guys
I'm
know
related to Buck 65 on paper.
Whoa, dude, that's cool.
On
On paper?
He did a cool thing this year because I always loved Buck 65 and the way, like, some of his old music, the way that it sounded, that kind of rasp in his voice. I always just loved it, right? I was like, I love the way this guy sounds. And he just released basically a rap album in his real voice, like this last year.
Rich to Fry.
2023. And it's like high pitched. It's like almost very nasally Beastie Boyish, right? So you hear such a different version of him. And this is how he originally came out and wasn't really hitting. So he kind of changed up his style a bit and became...
I gotta check him out because I've always heard of him, but I've never actually gotten around to it. It's just one of the checklist things.
He's cool.
Yeah.
He's done some cool stuff.
He's done some cool stuff. He's kind of all over the place. He does a radio show to Toronto now. And I think he's been doing that for some time. And it's fantastic.
Totally. Yeah.
And he saved the Junos. I mean, the Junos are coming back here this year. But years ago, Buck 65 did like the Junos here. At the same time, Pamela Anderson was here.
Yeah.
And Pamela Lee Anderson, God bless her, she was to protect the seals and made some sort of pro joke against seal clubbing.
Yeah.
And everybody booed her. And
That's awful.
so what ended up happening is she left. Like, she left the award show not very far into it last time the Junos were here.
Jeez, why would they
And then
do
Buck
her?
65's just over there. They like put the spotlight over him. He's like, whoa. And he's there with the piano and playing, serenading. Very nice.
Yeah.
He did a smooth job kind of recovering the Junos that year.
He's
Be
a cool
interesting
guy.
this year to see what happens.
Yeah.
I feel like
They
people
should
aren't
I think they should
as
hire us.
terrible as they were
Be
in
awesome.
the past, though, too. I feel like people in general, I mean, is it just me, or do people boo less? Like, in the olden days, they booed Joe and Jet, and they booed, like, everybody.
Sure.
And,
I would
and
say
nowadays,
Halifax
I feel
crazy.
like booing slightly less.
Where we live, in Halifax, I'm saying we were certainly more aggressive 20 years ago than we are now.
Yeah, you
As
know,
an
I think
audience.
that's true. I mean, like, I think back of like when we were having concerts here, because we don't really have a whole lot of like, you know, big concerts anymore because
not
we
like we
lost
used
that.
to,
But I remember like Celine Dion was supposed to come here, and she's a legend.
Mm-hmm.
And like basically they were like, yeah, Celine Dion's gonna play the Common, and everyone was like, and everyone else was like, outdoor concert, Celine Dion? Nah, screw that nonsense. It's like, how dare
remember
she
that.
play outside?
Yeah. We've had a lot of acts that were on their way. And Halifax, like, people literally just said no thanks.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
A
I
lot.
find
Well,
that
now
that's
online,
like a
I
small
suppose
town
everybody's
kind of
venting their
East
feelings,
Coast.
unfortunately.
I just find it's kind of like a condition of maybe the area of the country that we're in. Like,
Yeah.
we're sort of even in the maybe political scheme of the country too. Like, we're kind of, you know, not take. I didn't realize how much we as Blue Nosers got made fun of until I went to Ontario. I was
Oh,
like,
dude,
oh,
yeah,
they
yeah.
think they make fun of us like we make fun of Newfoundlanders.
Yeah, they think
and then
we're all
I
Newfoundlanders.
Well, they think we're all Newfoundlanders.
And I immediately felt
now it's the
terrible for
entire
every-
region, right? Because I was a born Newfoundlander,
Yeah.
but raised in Nova Scotia.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter. If you're from the Maritimes, we were all Newfies. We were
Yeah.
living in Calgary, all of us.
Yeah.
I remember I went up for work like a few years ago, like several years ago, whatever. It was like when I first got into management, so I had to travel to Ontario for head office stuff. And honestly, this is like 7-8 years ago. It's the first time I realized like that I have an accent. Like,
Yeah.
because I got up there, and I mean, I've been to Ontario, I have family in Ontario and everything, but what was like just overwhelming was being in like this, you know, this headquarters and talking to people, meeting people for the first time, and they were just, and I think like every second person was just like, oh, I like your accent.
yeah.
And I was like,
Where are
what
you from?
accent are you talking about?
I've always known the accent, but I've known it for like, I've noticed it for all Canadians. And I
Sure.
think maybe it's just
Yeah.
because I watch too much TV, which is primarily based, you know, out of the U.S. And so, like, I always recognize that PEI, we say Dad, Bad,
Yes,
Roy.
PEI
Yeah,
has,
yeah.
And
has
as soon
a
as I
wonderful
moved
dialect. Yeah.
to Nova Scotia, Blake will say, like, he'll be like, oh, I'm just going to go sit down on the coach.
Yeah.
So that's a Nova
I
Scotia
say coach.
thing.
I say host.
And our hard R's on everything
Yeah.
in Nova Scotia. Bark, arr, arr. You know,
But even
like
in
that's
Nova Scotia, somebody called Blake out where they thought, you were like,
We
oh,
were
you
at,
got-
we were at a gig and they had like a green room set up for us, and we went in and the guy, like the promoter, was like, you know, oh, so you guys good here? Is this are you happy with the? You need anything? And I said, no, this is great. You got a coach in here, and as well as there being a coach there was a rack of coats. And the guy was like, oh yeah, it was coats in here. Cool, yeah. And he
Because
was like,
you got a coach here. He's like, yeah, there's lots of coats.
he was. And
Blake wasn't gonna say
I was
anything.
gonna let it go, right? Like, this guy thinks I'm
Not
a
me.
fucking idiot. he likes coats. I don't know what his deal is, but he likes coats.
I was feeling his coach.
From now on, anytime you ever went anywhere with that guy or if Nova Scotia was there, it's like, make sure you put lots of coats in the room. They like that.
Yeah, just like drape them wherever. Just, you know, Columbia, just a couple Carhartt jackets, something,
You
right?
gotta laugh at yourself. Like if anybody doesn't laugh, I'm like I apologize if it's offensive. But and somebody did get offended one time when I made fun of the coats joke and said about Nova Scotians saying that. To be fair too, like, I'm super honest. The PEI, we're much more. I don't know. We're just a little bit more in the country and. Especially in the outskirts, like we say a lot of funny things, but I
Yes.
embrace the funniness of it. And in Ontario, they say rate, like rate and
Yeah.
dot.
Yeah.
So I just acknowledge it all because it's
And
there.
if I'm being honest, and I really don't care if I offend any Ontarians, but I think you sound ridiculous when you say yeah, or when somebody from the West Coast says like, I used
the
to work with
Sweden
this
of
girl
Canada.
at an Irving, and she would be like, can you stalk the banana tree? And I'd be like, banana right here, and it was like, oh my god, and she would say like Super Mario. I was like, have never played Super Mario. I played a whole bunch of Super Mario, but I've
Well,
never
you
played
say
Super Mario.
Caramel, and it's caramel just like it is Super Mario. So you
What's
know,
a caramel?
Well,
splitting hairs now.
I
but-
feel like we're in good company, guys. I love all dialects, and I just appreciate them, and I like people when they're proud of their own. So, talking about basically going back to that part where you mentioned, Halifax and audience. I mean, now you guys are doing well. You sold out the Carlton. I think a lot of people really like and respect
That's a
your
fantastic
music.
venue, by the way.
Wicked venue, yeah.
Yeah.
But have you ever said, are you thinking now, you have to leave to make it?
No, I mean, look, we're not moving away. I've been to Nashville many times. and
Yeah, I was
written
going
and
to
stuff like
that's
that.
where my head was going, is Nashville.
I used to go there a bunch,
Right.
and it was great. And I wish, now I almost feel a bit more prepared if I were to make the trek again for the writing. Because at first I was like, this is too 9 to 5. It's just too forcing it out. But then when I would get back to the East Coast, I would find I would just naturally pick up on things like a line at the grocery store,
Yeah.
take that for a song, and it would just, I realized how it would get my muscle working. So I was just kind of figuring it out, and I think I didn't appreciate it as much as I could have, but I did love it up there.
How old were you when you were in Nashville?
I was early or 20s. Or,
20s.
Yeah, late 20s
And
probably.
it must be crazy to go down Broadway, because I went down, my father actually got us a trip and took me and my brother to Nashville, I don't know, 10 years ago. And it was a really awesome trip, right? But we spent the whole time just checking out venues and the artists and music, and it's overwhelming. How much
It is.
talent is there?
There
Because
is.
you're you go in one bar and you're like, that's the best fucking band I ever heard. And then you go in the next bar next door and you're like, okay, that's the best band I ever heard. And it's the whole
and they're not
trip.
making any money.
And the cat's serving you
And
drinks.
they're literally passing
wrote
around
the
boots.
song that they're playing, or the
Right.
other person at the door is just
Right,
working
man.
at the bar because they want to try and get in with the band, and they're a great bass player, and it's everybody and their dog.
And they're
is-
passing around boots to throw change in,
I
right?
jammed with somebody
yeah.
oh, that was Garth Brooks' guitar player, and then jammed with somebody else, and I had a friend who wrote a song and had it cut by Travis Tritt and Willie Nelson. Oh my God, I almost said it again. I'm cut off from this one.
Willie Nelson.
You're not
get a
very far
shirt
down.
that says
You're
that.
good.
But there was a lot of everybody was just somebody or had written something, and so that was almost a little bit overwhelming too. And
Yeah.
you could a lot of people that make money up there, it's either session work or it's trying to write music and get a hit.
Were there people down there that were and I don't know, I'm just asking, if people the shady friggers down there that are trying to
No,
promise you deals,
not
kind of,
at
and
all.
sign here and I'll make your life beautiful.
It was actually, it felt a lot
I
like
wish.
Halifax, to be honest.
Give me, man. Let's
My
do it.
personal experience was very much like Halifax. I felt
Okay.
it was a much smaller community because all the musicians and stuff kind of knew each other. And
Right.
when I first went down, I just kind of, fast-tracked to a lot of different studios and writing with people. But, it was just kind of hard to find... the contacts I had were very country, which is a little bit out of my genre.
Right.
And even when I did kind of meet a couple in the rock side, it doesn't necessarily mean it's the right kind of rock.
Right.
So
I had a friend who moved from Brazil.
Yeah.
He lived here for a little while, but then went back to Brazil, and now he's in Nashville, trying
Cool.
to be a musician, right?
Yeah.
Just trying to do it, right?
What a
I had
grind.
friends that wanted me to move there, and as much as I loved going up there, I never really considered it. I always kind of wanted to remain in the East Coast if I could. There's been times I considered even Ontario, but I'm always a small East Coast girl, and I just...
Well, thankfully now too. Music's so digital and has a global reach, and hopefully
Yeah.
some people all around the world will eventually hear you, and it can grow. It's kind of like seeds, and once one can get to another area and hit a few people, it can grow, or they see you live or whatever, right?
it is hard.
Even the conversation
tough.
we're having is kind of going back to audiences or finding it a tough place in the East Coast. Audiences booing people. There is a thing of, even in that conversation of to leave to make it. I feel like when you come from a small place and we don't have a lot of entertainment that comes through here, or it's you kind of rely on. That's why Newfoundlanders are yeah, you're part of Canada, but you're not. They're their own thing. We survived on our own forever, and I've met Newfoundlanders that kind of have this thing where it's you don't, not in a bad way, but it's you don't get it. You don't look at us as being part of the whole thing. So there's kind of you hold on to the things that you're close to.
Mm-hmm.
It's even in hockey players. I've met more people on the East Coast that have shit talked Sidney Crosby when he first got in, that were didn't want to get on the bandwagon immediately because it was like, and if you leave and try and be successful somewhere else, it's like you're leaving.
That Canadians are kind of like that because like Canadians, like, you know, they hate Nickelback, right? And they hate Rush for some reason. Like there's that that self.
I don't know anybody who hates Rush. I feel horrible that people say negative things about any musician for any reason, because I just think it's like a petty thing to do, to put somebody down just because they're successful in it, even if you don't like what they're doing.
Yeah.
They work really friggin' hard to be where they are, and
That's
nobody
a good
can deny
point.
there's at least a couple
Totally
of songs
fair
that are pretty
statement.
catchy.
If you don't like it, don't listen to it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? It's not your jam.
But
then-
I
Frustrates me.
think when you're from that
you know what
small
though?
area,
I gotta say, I'm sorry. Taylor Swift has invaded my football fields, so I am a little bit annoyed with her in that.
See, and I'm cool with Taylor
I will
Swift,
avoid
right?
her concerts, and she can do all the best. But can we just
Give me
keep the camera
football.
on the football field?
But,
And,
but that's the cameraman
I'll raise
too,
a girl right now
Like,
who loves Taylor Swift so much. I have heard. I don't wake up. I woke up this morning and I was thankful that a Taylor Swift song wasn't in my head because I hear it so much in the house and driving her anywhere. Because she's just like, let me play the Taylor Swift, and I'm like, sure, dude, let's do it. But it was like this morning I woke up before I got a shower, and instead of Taylor Swift, that song, It's the Biscuit, Taste the Goodness of the
oh my
Biscuit.
gosh, that song.
That was playing
That's
in my
been
head.
in
I
my
was
head
grateful.
so
I was
much.
like, thank God
I
that
showed
song's
it
in
to
my
Blake,
head
and
this
he's like,
morning.
I don't know what I'm watching.
that's awesome.
I can't help it. I can't look away.
Those guys have their own Instagram, by the way.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. And again, I spent way too much time on it. like your page, learned a bit about you guys, right? You know, it's just an older couple, and they made this song like about a biscuit and honey sauce. You've heard it, right?
Yeah, no, I was showing Blake it, and it was in my head for a
Okay.
long time. And every once in a while, I just got to go back and
Oh my God.
check it out.
Yeah, they keep putting it out, and they keep doing different things
I was
with
going to say
different,
they've done a bunch of different content now.
with different green
wow.
screens and the same song. Oh
I
my
haven't
gosh.
seen any of the other stuff really, though. I've been trying
We
to
surfed a little bit the night you showed it to me, like enough to see that they had like done some.
I gotta check a little bit more on that. But I do want to just at
Do a
least say
deep dive on them.
that I do find that like there's pros and cons to like being being in small like
Yeah, of
small
course, yeah.
towns.
Absolutely.
I still think that I'm a small town girl at heart. Hollywood, Halifax is big to PEI, so that's what it kind of.
I agree with you. What I've always said to others about Nova Scotia, I said, okay, yeah, it's small and stuff, but it's also a sandbox, right? Because you can really do whatever the heck you want here, and say, yeah, I'm going to go be a play director and figure it out. Go down the road, right?
Yeah.
If you want to do anything, it's a great place to start.
Totally.
You can get support because there is that kind of small town vibe where like you can get people to kind of believe in you a little easier when it's like the highest loneliness rates are in the biggest populations because
Yeah,
people
that's
don't bother
true.
to stop and say hi or
Right.
hold a door for
That's
you.
true. No.
Yeah.
So here people do at least keep that hometown like hospitality, which I love.
Yeah.
Of course, that's what makes the East Coast. It's like that's part of it too. Is like, I think we're not big on people being too big for the britches out
Sure.
here. You know
Yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
And I think that's kind of the deal. Is that the moment if you come to somebody, come on in, the door's open.
Yeah.
But don't preach to me in my own house or come into my backyard and we'll feed you, we'll clothe you, we'll house you.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
there's a little bit of like Celine Dion's like, I want to play soccer on that on those comments, and it's going to be dug up because Celine Dion and she's going to. I'm not justifying it, but I mean I think that's some of where it comes from.
Yeah.
I think it's
That's
also
just a
population
good thought,
size
yeah.
sometimes because it's like, in the U.S. there's just so many people that there's enough of a market where that demand is there.
Right.
But here it's like, even Canada itself is not overly
Well, it's
populated.
working class too, right?
Yeah.
There's a heavy trades industry in the East Coast.
We
and so
rely on
like,
immigration just to
we've got an
stay
announcement
flatline
coming up for
population.
a concert at the Commons. You got a bunch of people on Q104 like, who's it gonna be this? Right.
Well,
And then the Black Eyed Peas came and just killed it.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, no, they came, and actually, I'll tell you a true story, because at the time I was living on North in Roby when the Black Eyed Peas were here. They couldn't get enough people into the show.
Yeah.
So they were asking people just walking by. I was walking by with my buddy, we were going down the bar, and they're like, hey, you guys want to come in and see the Black Eyed Peas for free? And we're like, I don't know, man.
Oh no, man! It's happy hour at Kurt Nelly's. Black Eyed Peas. I don't know, man. I like Will.i.am, but I'm not that.
That being said, I went there. Like they had a weird concert, which was Alice Cooper, Rolling Stones, and Kanye West.
Right.
And that thing was like freaking. I don't know what it was, like 60,000 people or something
Yeah.
stupid. Right?
I can
that was
understand
huge.
that though, because I'm.
This was pre-crazy Kanye though, so
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I don't even know
Pre-Yeezy.
as much as obviously the negative stuff I get, but undeniably he does have a few pretty catchy songs, so I can understand even
his
like
music is awesome.
And there's a lot of like old school threads in the mix.
Who,
so,
Kanye?
Yeah.
Yeah, Kanye's a musical genius.
It wasn't.
But he has.
Don't tell him that though.
No, he has some challenges.
You don't have to.
What?
I was going to say you don't have to tell
You don't have to.
Yeah.
He tells himself in the mirror every day.
Yeah. He told the world he was a musical genius.
Yeah, I think he's a genius with music. I really do. I love what he's done. I mean, from a production side, he made the best Jay-Z record. He made some of the best Alicia Keys songs that ever existed. Like, he was amazing on the boards.
I mean, people that are like really amazing musicians are not necessarily good people.
Right,
And
that's the truth.
they don't meet your hero. That's a real thing. I mean, James
Yeah.
Brown.
Yeah.
He's not a great guy. I don't
was
even want to get
crazy.
into that, but the thing is, it's like, don't hate the song, because he made some songs that were like amazing for equality and
Right.
advancing that unionship between people. So like those songs are super
He was also
important.
on a lot of drugs. Like
Yeah,
a
and
lot
he was
of
also
drugs.
very abusive and like all
Yeah.
those things. But it's like
Yeah.
you just
That
I
interview
don't
with him
focus
is
on
incredible.
That one, like,
Yeah, where he's like, he just keeps like saying names to a song. Like,
Yeah.
I
Living in
do
America.
try to
It's-
separate the artist
It's
from the,
amazing.
like from the
Yeah.
artwork.
Unless
often.
you're like putting money in their pocket while they're carrying out
Yeah, like,
terrible
I-
acts.
Yeah.
I feel like then you
I'll-
might want to make a stance and like boycott
Yeah.
it. But at the same time, I think at the end of the day, if you try to like do research on all the musicians, you're probably going to find some dirt on just about every single one
That's
of them.
fair, yeah.
So
Like,
you
I'm
kind
still
of
gonna-
have to.
I'm still gonna watch reruns of the Cosby Show, kind of thing, right?
Yeah?
Like that, yeah.
Tried.
No,
I couldn't quite do
I
it.
was never a Cosby Show guy, so I'm lucky there.
Oh no, see, yeah.
Well,
I
see,
was,
I
so
still
bummed.
watch Seinfeld.
Oh, yeah?
I will.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I still watch Seinfeld.
Yeah.
I know that was forever ago too, but
Yeah.
still, that's some people. It's very. But I can't deny it. I
I
still
don't want
love
to dive
Seinfeld.
into that one. I don't even want to like touch it with a 10
Well, I'm not getting into.
because I think that sometimes representations are like sometimes more to do with stress. I don't think it's necessarily the real opinion or viewpoint of somebody.
Yeah.
But I think
Fair enough.
nowadays, especially if you're just caught in a bad light. I don't know what I would have done if I was growing up as a kid through Facebook,
Yeah.
or like drinking for the first time,
Hard
or
for
just
kids now, yeah.
shooting your mouth off, making
Yeah.
a mistake.
Anybody in life, it's
People
there's
make mistakes and they shouldn't be canceled
phones,
for like
cameras all the time. And
yeah,
and
you can't be. I mean,
Scary,
obviously,
man.
there's a big difference. I mean, obviously, you know, like I said, I still watch the Cosby Show. Bill Cosby's turned out to be a monster. So I mean,
Yeah.
like, there's nothing wrong with him being like, you know, having a life sentence for things. However, that being said,
rest of the
there's some other people that honestly just do stupid things because they're kids, and you know, you don't necessarily deserve a life sentence for something
Totally.
stupid things, right?
totally.
Yeah,
These
we're on the
days-
same page that Bill Cosby doesn't deserve a second chance. Everybody.
No, exactly. Yeah, we're all on the same page there.
Yeah.
Nobody is for Bill Cosby.
Yeah. But okay, so you know, back
It's like at the beginning of the
episode.
episode, like PSA. We just like to say
We're going
that
to
there's-
start that at the beginning and the end of the episode. This episode does not endorse Bill Cosby. But he had a good show.
But back to you guys, because honestly, like, kind of back to that whole like hometown thing and everything. I honestly feel that I mean, everyone knows Halifax has a good bar scene.
Sure, yeah.
And we have lots of live music and a lot of cover bands and stuff like that. And you were talking earlier about like female artists and stuff like that. Honestly, I love the band Shaded. They're one of my favorites of the ones that do the local route, like through here. The lead singer there, she's incredible. Like, she sings well. She plays like 3 instruments. I heard from someone that she has like a PhD or something like that, and I'm just like, save some talent for somebody
Check
else.
them out. 'Cause I don't
Right?
think I
I know that
Shady.
it is,
Do I?
man.
They're one of, like sort of a local cover band scene.
They are
They've been
local
around
cover
for
I always feel so
quite some
bad 'cause
time.
I'm pretty
There's lots of great
forgetful.
cover bands
There's
around here
lots
that
of
are
it.
like.
I mean, like everyone knows like Signal Hill. Everyone knows Shameless and things like that.
Melatones are my
Totally.
favorite.
Yeah.
Melatones are
Melatones are
fantastic.
fantastic.
Incredible.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like Shaded, like she, like they're just like, she goes up. She's the lead singer. She plays guitar, piano, something else, whatever. Either way, but and like
Girl
you know,
after my own heart. Yeah.
honestly, she's just fantastic. And then I found out someone was like, yeah, do you know she has like a PhD in like biology or something. I'm
Cool.
like, save some talent
And
for someone else.
she's local?
Yeah, local. Yeah,
Cool.
Yeah. She's fantastic.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'd love to see the music scene kind of blow up here, and I'd like to, you know, especially the way kind of Argyle is kind of shaping up now and closing things off. Like they should be having music acts in there all the time.
I hope so.
Right?
I think it's a population thing
Yeah.
as well as like the stage of life.
But
that
we're
in.
growing fast though.
But because Canada it's a tough one. Like it is very tough to get people into shows and different things are
don't know
emerging
if
like
it's a
house
population
concerts.
thing, though.
In comparison to the U.S. and
Well, I mean, I guess if you're looking at it on that scale, but like
there's
when we got
big
into
double
the scene
standards
between
for price to get people
like-
from the U.S. where like the heart of it all is. They
Yeah.
charge way more money to get acts over here, or to get acts over there. No, not to get here. Yeah, they can come here, but we can't go there for like, it's so expensive.
Do you think it's a generational thing?
I was going to say, I
like
think
a little bit, too?
I think it's cyclical.
There might be a few things at play. I think what you said is right, but I think also like today's kids might not just want to get out as much.
I think it'll swing the other way. Like, I think when we started it was 2008-9 that, I started playing around the scene, and there was just kind of, it seemed like more happening. And then right up until 2014-15, there was like a stretch there where the Seahorse was on Argyle.
Yeah. It was on fire.
Yeah, the trifecta was still open.
There was there for the first time when I was like in my early 20s, and I was like, "This is mind blowing, right?"
Yeah,
there was all kinds of venues.
Because like there wasn't computers and there wasn't music at our disposal.
Sure, I mean, but also the affordability thing of
big time.
When we were younger, like especially like I think Matt and I are a bit older than you guys. So when we were young, like you could go out $20, it'd be your whole night.
Yeah,
right.
I have to pee really bad.
Oh, that's okay. There's a washroom right there. You don't have to go.
I'm so sorry. It's just that each time we say something, it gets into something else interesting, and then we can't like. But you guys can talk while I'm gone.
Yeah,
I had a coffee before I got here.
Talk amongst yourselves.
And I wrote my deal. So like,
we're going to keep it running, and we'll say great things about you while you're gone. We promise.
Which way? Just across.
Yeah, right there. Just
right
to the left. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think
she's unbearable. Why did you?
9 years, guys. 9 years.
That part we're keeping.
Yeah, totally. Just a little gem for her to discover later.
I had to do that.
No, I do think there might be something like that, and even in the last, it's 2024, so from 2000, it's crazy to even say this, but from 2020 till now, I mean that's 4 years of pandemic to now. So we are seeing like people behaving differently, and over the last 5 or 10 years,
I think the pendulum does swing.
I think it does too, and I think you'll have a generation that will go, we haven't had a whole lot of this because the last 5 or 10 years, Gen Zs are kind of doing things a little bit different.
Sorry, I pin you on your age. How old are you?
I'm 35.
35. Okay, so we're like I'm 40, Matt's 39, and the only reason I'm talking about our age here because I think in context of the years and where things were, whatever I don't know, music and attitude wise, like back when I was graduating from high school, what a crazy time for music. Yeah. You could say absolutely anything.
Yeah.
You could do absolutely anything, and you were endorsed for it.
Yeah.
It was a time when hip-hop was predominant, right? And they were selling vehicles by using hip-hop artists, right? And everything was supersized, everything was big, everything was money, and you could say no wrong, you could do no wrong.
Yeah.
Right?
Totally.
And where we are today is the polar opposite. Right,
100%.
The polar opposite, right? Where you have to be very careful what you say and what you do.
At the same time, there's a funny comedian that did a bit about comparing and contrasting. I'm not getting into canceling.
No.
He was talking about people were upset with "Baby It's Cold Outside." He contrasted the lyrics with "WAP" by Cardi B, and he was, he's obviously being extreme for laughs, but at the same time, it's like. It does seem like you're not wrong that things are different.
Yeah.
You got to make sure your T's are crossed, your I's are dotted, because people are looking.
But then you can still say some pretty extreme things.
At the same time, like if it's coming from a certain angle, it's like, well, that's empowerment, and it's like, all right, well, whatever your view is on it.
Sure.
I think it's just shifted a little bit because, like, if you think of when John Lennon said. That they were bigger than Jesus and suddenly had piles of records being burned. It's just like, what is society focusing on or empowering or like getting behind the most? And it's like, at the end of the day, and it's much easier to get caught saying anything or have it be taken out of context or put into fake, whatever.
Right.
So I think there's just a little bit more scrutiny. It's a little harder not to be caught saying certain things, but also I think there's just as much of a faux pas on things. It's just that it's just switching.
Well, reactions are quicker too because people can Christine could get offended at something in this and whatever it is, and in 10 seconds put a tweet out to something. Like it's things are just more immediate.
And media right now, I think, manipulates way too much of it. Like, because I believe that this woke versus anti-woke narrative only exists in the media. If you really dig down, like
if you talk to
they're
people,
putting a label on it, and you do a show where you sit down with people. It's like, we all have differences. Every one of us expressed where we didn't 100% agree with someone right here, but I still like all
I'm
you
a
guys.
firm
Right?
believer that like
And-
80% of us can all get along. It's like the 10% on the this
Sure.
side and 10% on this side that like are just
Extremists
Yeah.
and angry people have the loudest voices and
Right.
vocalize
And they're
the
bored.
most.
Right.
I have friends on both sides of the political spectrum.
Sure.
I accept you no matter who you are, and
Me
I'm
too.
not gonna. And nobody is just one specific archetype on
Yeah.
either side. Like a lot of
Right.
people have a couple views or a couple views there, and a lot of people are forced to pick sides that I don't want to even get into. But I just refuse to get caught up and swept up because, again, even vocalizing opinions this day and age just doesn't serve your purpose.
No, it's
It adds to polarization. It pushes everybody.
Right.
And
into
even
an
that
opposite
will,
direction.
But
even
now,
going back,
opinions still
that'll
matter,
swing
but you
too.
have to- yeah, it's
I
tough.
think
It's a tough
people will
balance,
start
right?
to. Sorry, I think people will start to kind of like we haven't had a lot of live music. We're going to start going to do those things.
Yeah.
People are going to start like, I'm tired of hearing bad news all the time. This the divisiveness out there. I'm tired. I think people will eventually kind of, it'll go another way where everybody will kind of. There'll be maybe a smooth stretch. And then there'll be some turmoil and some stuff like it. It's
Oh, yeah.
everything is cyclical.
We also got like ESP, like from Facebook and everything. We can see into people's thoughts more than we should.
Yeah.
And that just skyrocketed ahead because of
That's true.
COVID. We just suddenly got cut off, and this is all we got to see.
Oh,
so I feel
yeah.
like we're dealing with the ramifications of that. And it's going to happen for a while, but I think things will start to eventually. It's just kind of like the 2 steps forward, 1 step back. I cut you off. It's a second.
No, that's you're
No, you were on point though. That's perfect.
yeah, and it's a
Yeah,
ripple effect
yeah.
that's happening, and I think eventually new ripples happen, and it's just a matter of like if I've learned anything about sort of entering into my own middle age journey, that like relax.
Yeah.
I tell myself that all the
That's
time. This
a
too
huge
shall
thing.
pass,
Just-
good and bad.
Yeah.
Just try not to, if you are pissed off or offended or triggered or whatever, whatever it is, sleep on it, and the next day attend to whatever
It's a
your
way to
issue
live,
is.
man.
And
That's really good.
so I think society will kind of get back to that place, and then we'll get to another time where
I
things are like.
think we're going to turn in that direction. I think it's already.
I think so.
I
too.
think
so.
exhausted of being angry.
I think it's at least good to be optimistic
This is
about
kind of
it.
like the
'cause-
basis of our show, though.
Yeah.
Like what we do here is we talk to all sorts of different people. We've like I feel like our show is very diverse, and it's not even like we planned it. It's just because we find so many different perspectives interesting, and so many different jobs and all this different stuff interesting, and hear different people. So just come on, let's talk to you, right? Kind
Yeah,
of thing.
yeah.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
So I mean, hopefully, I mean, our we're not we're not major yet, kind of thing, but. Hopefully our show is going to be a part of that, like where people can just sit down and talk to each other.
And if at
right?
least you're just putting it out into the world with good intention, regardless
that's
whether it
right.
rises or falls, it doesn't change the intention. And if it does, conversation hopefully leads to understanding.
Yeah.
And if you're doing
That's
that with different people, then
Totally, with like 2 things I always say that people need to do. 1, meditate. You'll do the world better if you start there. 2, have conversations.
Yeah.
Don't just because somebody says one thing that you assume this whole, like, then you must be this, and this, just because you have this point of view, and like talk about issues. But if
Lovely.
you don't,
Yeah.
if you like mute people or cancel them or whatever, you'll never really get any further ahead.
100%.
And if you're angry, like they say in psychology,
Cheers to
like,
that. It's going to be Canadian. Let's go cheers. All right.
but if you're angry, you're irrational. You can't reason. It's like it's a fact. And so everybody is so angry that
having
even if you
kids,
have a
a
bad
3-year-old
cause,
teaches you that.
Oh, so you guys have a 3-year-old?
I have a 10-year-old, and together we have a 3-year-old.
You guys have a 3-year-old.
So,
Okay, yeah,
Yes.
yeah, and you have a 10-year-old. Okay, yeah. So
Children
you got a
teach
couple
you
different
that.
stages going on.
Oh
So-
yeah.
Okay, so now that we solved the world's problems.
No, hold up. I want to hear from the kids. Yeah.
We're getting back to them.
Yeah.
Now that we
Okay,
solved the
cool.
world problems, I want to get back to them. So yeah,
Okay.
talk about the kids, and I also want you guys to talk about like what made you guys decide not only just to like you did separate music acts, but you decided to do one music act. So let's talk about that stuff.
The joining forces was sort of I had started playing for her. I had a kid at that point, actually, but I started playing for her, just backing her up, and she was doing a weekly gig at the Carlton, and it was a long, I think it was like 4 hours. So I was just kind of helping out, and eventually it just kind of turned into, it just kind of happened.
Right.
I just started singing more songs. Eventually got to a point where, like, it's almost kind of weird if we don't. I always felt like, man, this is kind of odd. It's like With You As Always is Garth, and I'm not trying to edge my way more on the stage. Like, move over, I want this. But it was just kind of happening. So it's like we either call this Campbell and Johnston or do this as like a co-project, or this is kind of like I'm starting to feel weird. I just feel like I'm,
It's so funny though. Like our perspectives are so different, but
So let's hear yours.
Oh yeah, let's hear yours. Yeah.
let's get into this.
She says no. He definitely used to push me with his elbow.
Totally.
no,
I have a
not
scar
at all.
right
Like
here.
anything, I just kind of like went to Nashville. I went to LA. I did a bunch of things. Like I kind of went through a phase in my life where I tried it for a little while with the band, and then I kind of just gave up on everything and got real depressed. And I did my honors in psych, and I was an A student, and I decided I don't want to do that.
Oh, really?
And then I decided I didn't know what I wanted. I was just like really just trying to stay in this world. And then I ended up just playing guitar all the time, and then kind of went through a phase where I realized I just want to play music. I don't care about being big and famous or whatever. And suddenly that was when I actually started making money. And I'd always been a fan of Blake's. So, like, I was always, like, I would say out of any person I've ever met, after being in all these different places and trying to write music, I just wasn't getting the inspiration to really, like, see anything through.
Right.
Blake was the one person that I'd always kind of been like, how are you playing that? And, like, how are you singing that? And how did you write that? And you're not even, like, playing it live. And
Nice.
so that kind of thing. So I was always, like, a big fan. And then we did a show, our very first one, at the Dutch Mason Blues. And that was just like
That I
so
played
fluke
for her,
too, because
yeah.
it was the first time I got the band back together after being like solo for a bit, or I got a band together. Just happened to see you, and I was like, I was thinking about reaching out, and then I just seen them, and you screwed up Highway Star, remember? And you were
time.
like, this is gonna be the only gig we ever do together, because he thought I was gonna
Okay,
fire him.
so
Huge
how did you guys end up like going from like just knowing each other through the music and being like, okay, couple? Like how did
Yeah, that's the same thing. Kind of just,
you just kind of eventually nudged your way in? Like,
No, I fell for Blake first. Out of I was much further ahead with the crush than you were. And then the timing was just never good, and then finally it was, and then and just the same kind of thing. I think a lot of things I was trying to get you involved in it, but you were always like,
too cool for school?
he was like Keith Richards, like what? And, like
a
you
little
say
bit. I was
Garth,
also
but you-
life was pretty heavy at that time. I was was young and dumb and full of fun and just not trying to figure it out and not doing a great job of it. And so there was a certain point where it's like, I'm not emotionally mature enough to be like, my life is in fucking shambles. A couple points where I was like, this is ridiculous.
And you had like this book of like songs and almost like poems and shit. And it was just like, it was funny because when I
I did.
When
I
I
really did. I had
originally
a
was
book of
like
poems and
intrigued by Blake, it was because of pure rock and roll and everything he was doing. Then I found out he had like this book of like really like a totally different side. And just
like a lot of country folk music, because I think she was a
but
little
like deep
taken aback.
lyrics
That, like,
and I think
That's awesome.
We just spent time, and I always say kind of like a a sexy onion, but like a tasty onion, because each layer it was like something intriguing and interesting, and
Tasty
you
onion.
still never like cease
You're
to
a
amaze
blooming
me.
onion, buddy.
I'm a bit of I'm a poor man's. I don't know. I do tend to have a array of interests or things that I think it's funny to her, because I think she just keeps finding like just dumb things that I'm into.
Yeah.
He's the most interesting. I'm trying not to like. It's going
Well,
awry.
cheers
so
to your
bad.
9th anniversary tomorrow, guys. You guys sound like a loving couple. So,
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's what matters.
Nine
So,
more.
let me ask you a question here. So when I listen to your albums, there's a lot of production on them, horns, other instruments going on besides the two of you. Where do you guys source like all the other instruments that played on your like most recent album?
So.
For
We've only
Righteous,
done
it was
one album that was
Right.
technically both of us. I did my roller
The
coaster
Campbell
album
and
before
Johnston
that.
album that came out like 2021.
Yeah, so that's, I mean, other than some keys, there's no horns on that one, but on the two Christmas tunes and the Righteous,
Yes.
and then as well as other songs on this upcoming record, there's horns. And that's the Jeff and Jody from the Melatones.
Oh, cool.
So
Okay.
awesome.
Yeah.
So we know those guys around town, and
Nice.
I do some teaching at one of the Long McQuaid's, and so does Jeff.
Oh, okay.
So we were just down the hall, and like,
Right
hey,
on.
man, do you want to...
Okay.
What are you doing on Wednesday morning? So it just worked out real easy.
Yeah, after COVID this year, and after Blake turning down work for the second or third time, and I still tried to convince you not to take it, but yeah, I started teaching 3 days
Do you guys
a week.
produce your music in house, or do
Yes.
you?
Yeah, we do it in our basement. We
do
kind of
great
have
Bought a house,
It's
we built
humble,
a little
but it's
studio.
Oh,
No.
good.
Yeah, good mixing. Sounds great.
Yeah, it's coming along. We're figuring it out as you go. Like we kind of need like books for dummies a lot of times.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like we've got a team now. Like
what
we know
happened
who we like
at the
working
beginning. We're like, I'm not sure what that. like every single time I sit down to like start something, like, oh my God, what now? Like it takes me 25 minutes, half an hour just to get like, okay, now I'm set to go.
I spent a lot of research just trying to get the easiest gear to use.
Yeah,
the easiest.
Yeah,
because all I want is the less part of that frustration. Like, and like you guys to make music. What you guys use? GarageBand, Logic, Logic. Yeah. So, like Logic's fantastic.
Totally.
Right? And so
I'm forever texting between 5 and 10 different people of like that are much better at the recording, producing side. Like, what would you do? I'm coming up with this problem. It's a consistent learning curve that I've never been more self-conscious or have imposter syndrome than when I'm, okay, it's great that technology is this far ahead that we're even able to, as independent musicians, afford enough gear and be able to figure out how to use it and put it in our basement and record with. That's pretty awesome, but it's like sometimes it's like, holy fuck, man! Like there's
expectations. And it is
just
still
constantly
very
questioning.
Sometimes you just want a sound, and it might not exist, and it just drives you crazy.
And with nobody there to help, an engineer or a producer that can help guide you, like that's when we're down there in the lab, I'm constantly, is this good? Or like?
But luckily, like our band, we love our band. We have like our B band as well, but the main guys that we play with, like they all kind of have a lot of wisdom that we can kind of pick their brains about. Okay. We usually get mixed and mastered with the SLR Studios, which is Martin. Who we actually met through the drummer of the Tea Party. Okay. And they work with him as well. He's just fantastic. So, like, I feel like once we do all our mistakes, we can kind of, like, is any of this usable? And he'll kind of give us, like, some feedback. Sometimes he'll guide us a little bit on, like, he's the reason we got Logic and a lot of different things.
Yeah. So you guys were recording 5 days ago. 5 or 6 days ago or something?
Snippets here and there, trying to...
We were in Yarmouth. A friend of ours has a cottage down there, so we just took a bunch of gear down and tried to, get as much as we could. You never get as much work done as you think you're going to.
And you guys have an album coming out?
In the spring, yes.
Nice.
And we actually are very excited about the summer because we finally have like a legit booking agent. Nice. I don't have to do it anymore. I've been doing it for years. And when you have ADD and you have to wear this many hats on the business side of things, which is completely opposite to the music side of things, it's really hard. And it's so hard to get back to creativity. So finally, we've got some cool things in the works, and that will help us start to export out of the East Coast. Because as lucky as we are, for me too, I've been like a full-time musician for like 10 years. We've been paying a mortgage off now, like with our dreams, So
right.
And that's the
Good
hope.
Job.
It's a little scary when you don't have a pension plan, but it's still what I promised myself I'm going to do. And I came to that. I had that epiphany. But yeah, finally, I feel like the team.
It's the real side of the industry. Like I just don't want to eat dog food when I'm old, guys.
Well, I hope it works. You guys make good music.
Honestly, I think that's fantastic. I mean, like Mike and I would love to like eventually be able to pay bills with this someday, right? Yeah. So it's and we have ideas to go further with it, but even still, it's like to be able to take that creativity and go and do it, and honestly, like just do what you want to do in life.
That's it. Because you basically like once I kind of had my epiphany, and I was like, I just want to do this regardless of whether or not I can like survive off of it. And that's actually when I started making money from it, and then like things started happening, and I stopped being I started facing my fears and stop worrying about making a bad impression as an introvert, and just go out and be a yes person to opportunities. And like, I know it sounds like the secret to a more reasonable way of putting it. Like, just I do believe you can manifest things.
Well,
and
you manifest them by doing.
Yeah, you put your energy towards something, your energy and effort, and like I'm just giving this shit my all, no matter what. And I think
talking yourself through constantly and trying not to freak out about the bills until the next door opens and you walk through and another opportunity is presented, usually in a totally different way than you ever expected.
I'm a big, as Mike knows, this is an entrepreneur guy, and Gary Vee, so I'm a big fan. I've read his book and stuff like that, and he constantly talks about like doing the things that you love, because if you do the things that you love and you do it passionately, people will be drawn to that. Simply by the fact that they can hear your passion.
It's kind of like living in accordance with your beliefs. Like for people that think manifestation and that sounds like hippie shit. Well, it's like you could say that, but you could also say that when you're kind of focused on one thing, you're living in a way that's opening up your life to allow those things in, and that's what it is. It's making sure 100%. That if you want to catch a fly ball, you be in the stadium. Like you've got to. So it's not so much as like magic shit. It's like you're just kind of surrounding yourself in your life with the things that you want.
Yeah,
and
allowing
making sure
opportunity.
and again, if whatever it is, do it.
There's usually a way. Like, I know they always say that if there's a will, there's a way, but it's usually true, just in a totally different way. And if you do something, passionately, people sense that, even if they're not like totally on board with maybe your opinion or the song that you just sang, but people will start to believe it a little bit more like the gospel. I always use Jim Carrey talks about his dad and like how he worked at, I forget, like an accountant or something like that. And like he took the safe way, you know what I mean? And then he got fired.
Right.
And so like you can do your backup plan and then fail. And then where are you? You're somebody who like took the safe route, something you hated, and then you
still got
failed.
stopped. Yeah.
So you might as well try, because the world shifts so much too. Like music has never stayed the same.
So let me ask you this: your song "Righteous." Did you guys write that together, both of you?
Not that one. No, actually, that is Blake's baby.
Okay.
I just nagged the hell out of him for several years until he finally released
Chris
it.
is kind of behind the way that it sounds.
I like the song. I like the idea. Like, what does it mean to you? If I'm allowed to ask that, is that okay?
Of course. I mean, it's fairly self-explanatory as far as it's me. I'm the righteous one. It's true. It's me like, dude, listen more, talk less, and just shut up. That you don't have any reason to
time, but that's where it starts.
You pointing fingers at people, you got 3 pointing back at you. So a lot of it is just mind your own fucking business.
Well, I thought it was almost a
care
bit of an anger control song, like when you get upset or when you want to advocate for something. Sometimes it's not worth just getting on top of your chair and screaming. It's just worth more kind of absorbing.
Well, I mean, like I have a lot of people in my family that are sort of maybe I think think you should do things just blah blah that kind of thing.
Yeah,
and it's there's a little bit of like whatever, man. You do you, and that's cool. Just worry about yourself is a little bit. There's no need to. I talk way too much, and especially when I was younger. That song's a couple years old now, and talk a lot. Stop. You know what I mean?
It's a good phase of time to put it out, though, with the way the world
totally.
was.
It has nothing to do with
that.
It seemed like it was saying a lot. The song really does. So the song's called Righteous, and this is going to be on their new album. We're going to put it at the end of this podcast here. And I don't know, I thought it was great. I thought it was fun. And that's where the horns question probably came from, because I was listening to it again today.
The way that the song is recorded is pretty lighthearted. And overall, the message is not taken too seriously kind of thing. So it's like,
it's not too preachy, which I like.
And that's kind of what it's about.
I like when someone tells me something but doesn't tell me something. You know, in a sense, like if
show
a movie
me, don't
or
tell
a
me.
show is telling me, well, this is exactly what we mean. I'm like, but it's something a little ominous.
How many times somebody said, you got to listen to this, you got to watch this show, and you're like, yeah, whatever, no. And then 6 months later, you're like, damn, they were right, I really do like this. But when somebody told you, you're like, no, I'm not, I can't do it. I have to come across it myself when I'm ready.
Don't tell me what to watch.
Yeah, totally. Still haven't seen Breaking Bad. Don't care.
The only thing I can say about that one song is that Blake was going to make it totally country twang.
Oh, really?
And I was like, we needed the demo.
And I'm not being mean, but I'm going to be honest with you, man.
I'll send you the
if I
demo
heard
someday.
That, righteous. I'm like, oh God, I see a friggin' Confederate flag flying all of a sudden.
It was
It would have
super
totally ruined that song.
I didn't mind that, because it's a song that I feel like can wear different hats, but I'm like, we're not a country band.
For me.
So that actually leads me to something I want to ask you guys is two questions as for each of you. Growing up, when did you kind of realize music is something that I want to do, and then also who influenced you? What were some of your biggest influences?
Growing up, the first thing I remember, the first thing was Dwight Yoakam's version of "Suspicious Minds." Was when I was 3 or 4. That was the thing that was like.
I'm actually want to put that in my phone, so I'll be listening to this later.
I'm going to go listen to that.
Yeah, it still gives me chills. That song.
Yeah.
I had a neighbor. Our front porch was looking across to his back porch, and I remember in that Dwight Yoakam jacket, the sleeve, when you pulled it out, there's a picture of him young with a guitar, and my neighbor Jerry Perry, his name is, he's probably dead. I don't know if his kids are still alive, but if anybody's out there that hears Jerry Perry was our neighbor, and
Jerry Perry.
He was sitting on his back porch playing a guitar, and I remember in my mind, I think some of this memory is made up. But I remember looking across and thinking, is he Dwight Yoakam? How is... because like he's
Lives
playing
in
the
the trailer
thing
next
that,
to me.
that was in that tape jacket. That so like I didn't realize that normal people like you could just go to at that point like McCabe Music just up the road there.
Right.
Anybody could go buy a guitar. I thought it was like actors you saw on the movie screen, musicians you heard on like a radio, but like regular muggles couldn't go. You know what I mean? Like we couldn't wield the magic. So that I remember that was the first time that it occurred to me that like, wait a minute, I could go touch that thing.
How about you? Do you have a song or a moment like that you?
I have a few moments. Like for me, I always tell the story of my dad playing like heavy music like Zeppelin and stuff to put me to sleep, and that was all that would get me to be quiet. But then years passed, I didn't know of them or realize I knew of them. There was one time when I was like 5, and I just remember seeing like somebody with a blood red guitar like ripping solos on stage, and thinking, I have to do that. Awesome. After that, the 2 main moments I would say is when I heard Highway Star, Ian Gillan screaming.
Highway Star, Ian Gillan?
Yes.
Deep Purple, but
yeah.
Do you know that song?
Yeah.
Yeah, see, I don't.
Oh my God.
No.
You have to go
Maybe
home.
I know it. I don't know. The
You've
words.
heard it at some point over
Probably
the
have
years.
looked at- I think it's on like one of the Grand Theft Autos or something, isn't it?
Probably over the years you've had.
Okay.
It's one of those like classic rock songs that at some point you've been in a gas station. It's been on the
Yes.
radio, and
Okay.
You
How
sing
does
the
it
immigrant
go?
song.
oh man, you're killing
Oh yeah, I
me.
can't.
Yeah,
I don't have a guitar
right here.
You
No one
gotta-
wants to sing it?
It costs more for that. No, I can't sing that song.
She's like, he screams in it. Like, so the good part, I can't really sing.
Oh, that's okay.
Here, it'd just be
It's
real
you'll
weird.
know it though.
No, don't worry about
Go
it.
check
It's
it
all
out,
good. I'll check
Highway
that.
Star. But Ian Gillan of Deep Purple. Do you know
Okay.
Deep Purple?
Smoke on the Water?
Yeah.
There you go.
But
Yeah.
you got to do more research if that's the only one.
Stop there.
Machine
So
Head.
much I liked it.
And only Ian Gillan, because to me that's the only Deep Purple. But his scream was like one of the most, like it wasn't even raspy a lot of times, and it took me a while to realize it was just super unique on its own.
Cool.
And then Immigrant Song by Zeppelin, the first
Okay.
time I heard that, both times my brain
Immigrant
was,
Song?
yeah, I just
Great song.
couldn't comprehend how good it was, and it actually kind of hurt and made life painful for years because like it was so before my time, and I was always trying to get my friends to enjoy records. I tried this record, and then I tried this
Okay.
record. It's like, you kids today, you don't appreciate good music.
And they're probably like, no thanks, we're on this NSYNC.
Oh, it was like so much like, and that was like I was so outdated then. So
Yeah.
it's just getting further and further. But then it's kind of nice because I'm outdated enough, I think, at least.
Wayne's
But,
World was a
so it
huge
sounds-
influence on me too. That
Queen was a big one, yeah.
Queen is
Queen and Bohemian Rhapsody, that started the whole.
the whole
Queen.
thing. It was the first time I heard any Jimi Hendrix.
Oh,
where
yeah.
I had an older cousin that listened to Jimi Hendrix, and
That was
when
big
I
one,
was
too.
kind of going on about Wayne's World, he was well. That's not like they play Fire in that movie, and I really like that. And
Yeah.
Foxy Lady was Garth when he
yeah.
had
Well,
the
that
dream.
is Jimmy. Like they play his version of it in it, but in the movie they're just playing the song at that bar, the Gasworks, and it was an older cousin that had said like, "Well, that's a Jimi Hendrix song." And I remember him saying, "I thought this was law. I thought it was like a rule of like written in the Constitution." That he said like, "Well, yeah, nobody. Jimi Hendrix was so good that nobody could really copy his music," and I just thought it was like. It was well into my teens before I even attempted to learn a Jimi Hendrix song because I was like, well, you just can't do it. Like nobody can do it. It just, I was like 14 and still thought it was like I had been told the truth about Santa and I still hadn't been like, but Jimi Hendrix, you cannot even
You know what?
attempt.
I think
You can't do it.
I think there was a lot of respect with Jimmy and everything. Like Bob Dylan basically gave him all along the Watchtower, right? Like,
yeah.
just
Bob Dylan wrote the song.
wrote the
but
song,
it's a Jimi Hendrix
performed
song.
it, and then he was just like, and Bob stopped playing it until Jimmy passed away. Right?
Totally.
Because he was just like, yeah, that's your
His
song,
version's
dude.
better.
Your version is better.
With a little help from my friends, like,
100%.
Joe Cocker. To me, it's like
Right.
a co-write. And, like, Angel from Montgomery is like Bonnie Raitt and John Prine. And
Yeah.
they just, to
Sometimes
me,
you do a
it's
song.
That's
like-
awesome.
Totally.
What a great voice.
Oh, yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
Great
like she
fly
has
player.
such a great voice. Yeah, and I mean, that's the thing. Like we were saying about like in terms of influences with female influences, but like there's like, I don't know. I think back like, I mean, Fleetwood Mac alone,
Yeah.
It's a big
amazing,
influence.
Totally.
right? And I mean, like Bonnie Raitt, obviously really great, and
we were
Hart
talking
and
today about
Joplin.
Hart. I was gonna say
Joplin
Hart.
and Fleetwood.
holy smokes!
I mean, we were talking today about Jewel. Let's be honest. Jewel
I
was
was talking about
amazing.
Jewel today.
Yeah, like how
Jewel
amazing
got
Jewel was.
lost in the Britney Spears, Aguileras, and Jessica Simpsons. But like, first of all, she was a smoke show,
Yeah,
and
totally.
on top of that, she was a great songwriter.
Amazing
I
songwriter.
love her songs.
Yeah.
I mean, I only know
There was
so
a
many of
couple
them, but
that
I
kind of
really
got lost
liked
in the
the
fray
ones that I
during
knew.
that time in the 90s.
Paula Cole was
Yeah,
awesome.
even
Paula Cole,
Amanda
Cranberries.
Marshall
Amanda
and
Fiona Apple.
yeah,
Fiona
totally.
Apple, I had
was
her
awesome.
album.
Yeah.
Was it Michelle Wright? She's another one. There was like lots of really
Yeah.
great female songwriters and
100%.
singers.
That's
that,
why what I think,
but
like,
they
when
weren't
I
selling
hear, like,
sex.
yeah, what
you know,
That's
they,
right.
They weren't.
Yeah.
They weren't selling it. They were beautiful women too, but
I wish
the
that wasn't.
focus
I
was
wish
on
you
the
could
music.
sell it
Yeah,
if you
exactly.
wanted to, but at the same time, it wasn't like you just about that. I feel like it's becoming more about that than anything, especially in the pop
Same
world.
thing though with
But you
I
should
mean,
be
maybe
able
not
to,
Janis
and it-
Joplin, but Hart and Stevie Nicks. I mean, they were.
Heart was the biggest for me.
They're
and
beautiful, but they
Joplin.
weren't selling it like it
No.
wasn't like part of. They weren't wearing outfits that were like it was. The focus was
They were
on
just
the music.
incredible.
Stevie Nicks is she's up there. I mean,
She was gorgeous.
I personally, like as much as like Stevie Nicks is one of my favorite female vocalists, I would I still think Whitney's the GOAT, but that's just
Fair
my
enough.
personal. That's my
That-
personal opinion.
that's-
But
There's
I
nothing
think
wrong with
Go.
me myself. I love Amy Winehouse.
greatest of all time.
she's great.
I really
Oh,
do.
yeah,
I wish.
Oh yeah, right. Okay.
Well, sorry,
I've
what- I
rarely
missed that?
ever heard that. Now
He
was that?
said, "I think Whitney's the GOAT," and she was like, "The GOAT? What do you mean?"
Yeah,
Like,
greatest of all time.
sorry, greatest of all time.
Yeah.
well, she's. I mean, like Stevie Nicks is wicked, but I wouldn't say she's one of the best singers. I'd say one of the best textures and sounds.
Yeah,
I
she
certainly
is-
wouldn't say as if we're just rating vocalist, which I don't think you have to say somebody's one of the greatest of all time as a musician or as a
Her
writer.
sound is really unique and awesome. Like
Yeah.
I'll be like when my son was born. I have a 2.5-year-old. When my son was born, like when I was the one who was up and holding him and stuff like that and everything, and my wife needed some sleep. I think I sang Landslide to him like over and over again for like hours.
Yeah, that's
Right?
a beautiful song.
Oh, yeah.
and her
Yeah.
her vocal performance on
And
that's
Wilson
incredible.
too, though, is I don't think there's. She's really at least tied. I think Whitney is like perfect because most people just hang like in one register or they have one strength, and she would use like chest voice and head voice and
yeah.
middle voice and everything. And a lot of people don't do that. But Hart is able to go anywhere
Oh, yeah.
at all, and she can do rasp, and she can go without rasp, and like she can still slay.
You know, else was underratedly really great. Speaking of like 90s music, I'm a huge 90s music geek, but I mean, underratedly great was Zombie.
Cranberries?
Cranberries,
Yeah,
yeah.
we
Sorry.
just talked
Cranberries,
about
yeah,
yesterday.
yeah.
Like
We were-
honestly,
yeah.
underratedly, like she was so
She
good.
passed away, right?
She, in
Recently,
2018, yeah.
Yeah.
And
I love the Cranberries, but
Cranberries
you think
were-
that she was like a technically good singer?
she was like in Zombie. She
Yeah.
was technically yodeling in a lot of that song, like from a technical standpoint,
Yeah.
which I thought was like a lot of people don't like. I thought our
I
vocal range
love
was
the
great.
Cranberries, and like, I
Yeah.
guess it just depends on like again, it's like an abstract, like you're creating a construct of what you think is good. Like, is yodeling one of the hardest things? I don't know.
I don't know. I
I don't
have no
yodel,
idea.
so I don't really know
I don't
Why can't
how
you do it?
hard yodeling is.
Neither do
I can't do it.
yeah.
And if I can't do it, I don't like it, and I think it's stupid.
But I think she's wicked. If anything, for the Cranberries, I just thought she was kind of like dark and like there was a lot of layers there, and I kind of
Oh, big
respected her
time.
more on the writing side, and she just knew how to like. But again, sometimes it's like you take certain things for granted because the voice, character, and texture usually is what resonates with you, and then later on you start to realize, oh, this person's actually really skilled at what they do.
Yeah.
It doesn't always even come across in their music because if you're going for the hit, it doesn't always like showcase.
And the other thing, it doesn't always matter. Sometimes
It doesn't.
great music.
Well,
and
sometimes
you
it
guys talked about
doesn't,
Kanye West earlier. I would never tell you he was the greatest vocalist.
There you go.
Yeah.
No.
Sometimes skill doesn't, or proficiency of whether it's playing an instrument or singing doesn't mean you're awesome at connecting with people. And
That's
I
true,
mean,
too.
Bob Dylan has never been known for being like an amazing singer.
No.
But lots of people really like to listen to him.
I'm a huge
Compared
Johnny
to his
Cash
voice.
fan. You want to talk a guy who doesn't necessarily have a great quote unquote great voice. I like his voice because I
Yeah.
like that like
character
deep
and it's-
characteristic.
yeah.
It fits
Later
his
on in
songs.
life too, when he does Hurts, like that.
Hurts,
texture
beautiful.
is,
Talk about like there's a
yeah,
couple
beautiful
songs
song.
like we were saying about how Jimmy stole All Along the Watchtower. Like he stole that from
Totally.
Trent Reznor, and I love Trent Reznor. I love like Nine Inch Nails. I thought
It's
Trent
another
was great,
level, though,
but like,
to me.
Whitney stole I Will Always Love You. Like that
Totally.
was hers basically.
Totally.
Right? So there's a couple covers that you're just kind of like. That's the one.
Yeah.
Right? And
Yeah.
but yeah, Hurt was. Whew.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's interesting. So,
But I was just going to say one quick thing, too. Like, when we do a live show, we play very different songs than what we would pick probably for the radio. Or, like, acoustic and electric. It all varies. But if we're going to... I'll do, like, my song How Long because I'll just rip at it. But, like, I don't necessarily pick that as the earworm if I'm going to, like, put something on.
Right.
Although it is on CBC radio sometimes. But, yeah, it's hard making set lists, too. Because it's like, what showcases me as a guitar player and as a singer and kind of pertains to this day and age and is something that people are going to want to listen to and find catchy.
Yeah.
And I have not been able to really bridge that gap because they are totally different worlds. So if
you
want
guys
to
are building a catalog, I mean, it's just going to become easier and easier as you go, right?
Hope so.
Hopefully, yeah.
It'd be nice to get to a point where you have enough clay or raw material that every night can be a little bit different, or there's you're making it each night. You can make it a different experience for people. That would be the goal, to have maybe enough albums that we can take two from this, and some covers here and there, and just make it so each night is its own thing. But
so you're one thing too. Like, you just kind of made me think of something too, with being able to bounce around and all that stuff. But it's like, as parents, because we were talking with parents earlier and everything, and I was just thinking, like, how is it to juggle what you're trying to do as a parent? Because, I mean, I know, like, we work our day job, and then we try to do this, and, like, we had, like, I don't know, it was like 14 recordings in 6 weeks, and I'm like, holy crap, right?
Grace is waiting to be fed right
exactly.
now. She's just starving.
So,
3 is a tough age in
It's
particular.
difficult.
I know because of Blake's son what it's like, and it does get easier after that, especially as a mother. And, like, Harley was a colic baby. It's funny because when we had him, I was feeling like suddenly out of nowhere, after never wanting kids, that I just wanted one all of a sudden. And I was like, trying to get you on board, and then we agreed we would try, and it worked.
Wasn't
and I was
that
like,
hard?
Somehow we
He was
will
more into the
make
practicing.
this work. And I just sometimes believe in synchronicity too, like not cause for any reason, but I was like, I don't know how we're going to do it, but we will. And COVID hit, and we kind of had a bit of a maternity leave because of that. In no other realm would that have ever happened. We bought a house in the worst time ever. Every day I kind of just ritualistically say, we're going to figure out a way. There's always a way. And bit by bit, like, we had that time with them too because of COVID, where he was a colic baby, so I really needed to be there. And I'd originally booked tons of shows. I'd gigged right to my 9th month of pregnancy.
Wow, so that would have, and that's right when your album dropped too, right?
Yeah, so
it would have
we were
been
lucky to
a
have
huge
that
challenge,
break.
2021, right?
Yeah.
Holy smokes, yeah.
So, and then I work from home, and I often joke that it's like, you just, like, because I work really hard every day. I always have for the last bunch of years, and it's like, you have to wear so many hats. You're not particularly good at them, and you're just like, I'm terrible at technology, but I've got to do social media. I got to book gigs, advance shows, taxes, and like, there's just, it never ends. Video, just using different programs for various aspects of the industry, and like networking, and then actually playing the show, getting your set lists. We're primarily to the East Coast, so like a lot of times too, you got to make sure the proximity clauses are far enough, and you're not getting stale with what you're doing. It never ends, and when you have very little energy as a mother, it's very tough that way too. But then if you were an executive, can you picture taking a 3-year-old and just like dropping them in the office and being like, okay, have a good day at work today, and like, what's this, and like hitting buttons, and like, it's tough. But I just...
Boy or girl you guys have?
A boy.
Okay, cool.
He loves music too, so I think he's got the illness.
Nice.
But it's the best thing we've ever done. I never appreciated something more in my life. Simultaneously, it's hard to convey that when you're like, I swear you should have a kid because it's so tired.
Yeah. The answer to your question is, it's difficult. You do it carefully, and you take it one day at a time.
Good answer.
There's times where it's the most amazing thing you've ever done, and I'm sure, as you guys know, there's days where it's like, holy shit. How much longer when are you 18? Like, it's,
I don't know.
you have days where it's,
But I sing in the shower now again, and that was starting to disappear, and I get more inspiration now because it's just another chapter of my life of growth that I felt like I was getting.
It goes
stale
back to
as
the
a
whole
person
thing you were doing, though,
almost.
about you're talking meditation focus. Learn how to chill yourself the half out. Sometimes it's just
children humble you for sure.
Oh yeah,
They also put things into perspective.
They do, and they make you appreciate things again. I have a song kind
they've
of about
helped
a
me better
mushroom
in
trip.
life dealing
very
with confrontation or like talking or arguing. It's like you realize because you can't win an argument with a 9-year-old or 8-year-old. You just can't.
Yeah.
You just can't. You just got to deal with that, right? 'Cause their logic is not. You guys aren't on the same level, right? You're not winning that stuff.
So you feel like too, like if you didn't have that new chapter
I can't win an argument with a 2.5-year-old. So he's still into like he started getting into the Lion King and stuff like that, like listen to the songs stuff like that. Now we've graduated. Now he's really into Queen. Oh yeah, "Don't Stop Me Now" is his favorite song.
Right on.
Wow, that's cool.
Oh yeah, so like he's just like
Trajan.
he's just like. Yeah, he'll be in the back and be like, don't stop me now. Like, don't stop me now. It's like, all right, buddy, I'll put it on. Or now he calls Bohemian Rhapsody Mama Ooh.
Oh.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Harley likes Night Train by Guns N' Roses.
Yeah, for a little while
Favorite.
there was Baby Shark a lot, but
Marcus King,
I was
too.
quite welcome to Night Train. Yeah.
Baby Shark, Guns N' Roses.
Gotta go again.
Oh, you know what?
Sorry.
We'll definitely wait till you go back.
up, yeah.
We were going to wrap up, but we'll wait till
we'll
wait till you go back there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all.
We'll wrap her up.
This is like drives like to gigs.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
It's we gotta stop.
Oh, yeah.
We make a lot of pit stops.
Oh yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
So are you guys traveling a lot around like the Atlantic or whatever?
Yeah.
Like,
In the wintertime,
yeah.
we usually try and keep it to
I mean,
the
that makes sense.
Maritimes.
Yeah.
I just myself, I hate doing a lot of the driving, and if it's something that's worth it, of course.
You guys got a tour coming up right now. Yeah, you'll be in New Brunswick, a bunch of dates and all that in February.
We're starting back with doing the 2 or 3 date weekends.
Yep.
Basically into the spring, and then summer we're going as far as we can, kind of thing. So festival season, we usually try and get out. We'll be up in Ontario in the spring. We'll possibly try in the fall again, and then you're always trying to add a few extra miles onto how far you get out. It's really difficult to. Going through the Maritimes up through Quebec and Ontario is fine, but like once you get past Sault Ste. Marie, I mean, it's like you got Thunder Bay, and then a solid day of nothing, driving 24 hours before you get to where you're even at another market that's worth stopping for. And when you're traveling, those aren't non-spending days. Like,
no, exactly.
So it's really difficult for people at our level of the industry to get out there, not coming back broke. You know what I mean? Yeah. And we're not at a point now where we can sort of take. We don't have to be raking in the dough, but it has to make sense.
Work. Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's dollars and cents in and out, right?
So that's. As far as that goes, it's like it's either we're flying out to do something, or it's in the summer months that we'll go, and then you can hit a bunch of.
And I mean, realistically, like Southern Ontario and Quebec, like they have tons of music festivals that go on.
Oh, man.
That's one thing I'm really jealous about. Like we don't really have music festivals here. For a little while, like 5 years in a row, I was going to the Sound of Music Festival in Burlington. Mm-hmm. Man, what a wicked! Like I got to see bands that probably people would have paid a whole lot of money for it at one point, but I got to see Sublime, I get to see Live, Offspring, like all these bands play, and it was like the ticket was super cheap, and they all played on the same day.
Totally.
And it was so cool, right?
They do get more of that stuff, like here, the East Coast is more grassroots festivals, and they're still amazing, and there's, I mean, there's tons of, but it's not quite the same as, like you said, you can go up and, we go up to Sarnia a lot, and several times I've seen shows that are up there that so-and-so is coming to Sarnia, and you're like, they're coming to Sarnia? Like, they would never come to a smaller market in the East Coast.
Even still, though, like this Sound of Music Festival, I think what I liked about it is you show up, like, it goes until, like, midnight. It starts at, like, lunchtime. And you go, and honestly, like, you guys could be there. Mm-hmm. Like, they have a lot of local bands. They have, like, some bands you've never heard of kind of thing. And, like, they're there, and they're playing. And they obviously, they have a headliner because they want to bring people out and stuff like that, right? And like it's a huge field, it's amazing, everything. But
we're pretty lucky. We've gotten to open for a lot of big names. That's kind of our only claim to fame is like other people's success. But Jan Arden, Bob Seger, Burton Cummings, Kentucky Headhunters.
We just did the Q104 birthday there in the fall.
Yeah,
that was cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
Steve Earle, she opened for.
Wow. Okay.
Trying to think of everybody. Who's Wilcox?
David Wilcox.
Fifth Naked.
Oh, really?
Serena Ryder.
Some of these I wasn't there for, but Chris is definitely over the
Chantal Kreviazic.
Yeah.
Oh, she's awesome.
Jane Arden twice. Bob Seger twice.
My uncle's a professional musician.
Sam Robertson.
He's played, like, my uncle plays the cello professionally.
Okay.
And so he's open for Jan Arden, or he's played with Jan Arden, whatever. Mm-hmm. And he get to play with her. CBC put on something, and so you get to play with her, Blue Rodeo, and the Chieftains, and he said JNR was awesome.
Yeah.
He said
She's so funny.
Yeah, he said she
Super
like
nice
nonstop
too, yeah.
laugh.
Totally.
Great,
We'd love
everything,
to hang out with her on this show and have a beer with her. I think.
Oh, man,
I
she'd be
think it would be
she'd be
good.
good company
Yeah.
for
I
sure.
don't think she drinks anymore,
Oh,
but
no?
she doesn't need to, so
No,
it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Nothing wrong with that.
He's having a Diet
Nothing wrong with
Coke.
that.
She can have a
Yeah.
Diet Coke.
But one thing I will say about the perk of what we do, well, I'd say two big perks of what we do is one is that we've got lots of super fans, like not a
Yeah.
huge following, but like a really wicked
Loyal.
following that's helped us raise money for albums, helped us
That's
move,
awesome.
helped us make a French drain in our backyard, and like I
Oh, wow.
swear to God, they're just like amazing, and you can follow the journey, right? Because like we're all connected on Facebook, we see our fans, we kind of come our family, our family, really.
So we work with a guy, and he's a young guy, which kind of gives me hope a little bit for this, like you said, like grassroots music and stuff. So a guy we work with, and he has his favorite band is a band I've never heard of, and it's like they play in Truro kind of thing, and it's his favorite band. And it's gonna be like, what's your favorite? I'm like, Metallica. And it's like, and he's like, no, this band. And anyway, he knows the band. He's like, oh, I've hung out with them like several times.
Yeah.
And like, but they're my favorite band. I'm like, that's awesome, right? So I don't know. I kind of see a little bit of that, like these fans that are really coming up that really like music.
Yeah,
And
they like being involved in something, feeling like they, if I was younger, if I felt like I could have
Help make a band.
Yeah, or even gotten in touch with a member of my favorite band and was able to correspond with them through social media or something like that, would have blown my mind.
Exactly.
So for a lot of people these days, the distance is a little bit shorter to feel like you're actually participating in this person's journey, which is kind of, that's cool. On the other side too, even for us at kind of the smaller level, it's fun. There's certain people that will think about when like, we're doing this merch. This person will like this T-shirt for sure. Like you kind of, you're
I
including
had one of
people in
your
that.
beer warmers from Sean and Lori. You guys did a private party for them one year, like a Smith birthday party, and I was there for that.
Oh, I know exactly who you're talking about. It was in. Do you remember we were playing Barely's that night? Pete did. He was on the Cajon with us that night. They saw us at Grand Parade Square.
Yeah.
Sean, I can't think of
feel
his
so
last
bad.
name.
I'm so sorry, Sean and Lori, if you're listening.
Well, Sean was a guest on our show, so because he has a
God,
long
I'm just
radio
really
career.
bad with
Yeah.
names.
When you do enough of it, like I work in the insurance industry, do you think I remember every single one of my clients?
Tell it.
You can't.
He had a picture with him and Dickie Betts. He was on like a cruise and he met Dickie because they had the birthday party. They had a bunch of pictures. I was like, what the hell? Do you know Dickie Betts? And he was like, no, man, he's like, we were on a cruise
saw their
somewhere.
face, it would be-
He's like, nobody else knew who he was. And he's like, and he was drinking. He's like, so I just sat there and got drunk with Dickie Betts.
Oh.
And it was
That's
like,
amazing.
Like Pete was with us at the house.
yeah, he did.
Yeah.
He played on the Cajon with us.
Awesome.
Anyway, you'll remember
Sure,
one. Yeah,
I do.
So
I remember.
So I'm going to wrap this thing up, guys, because I got to go.
after 2 bathroom breaks. I think.
Sorry, what?
Yeah.
After 2 bathroom breaks.
Don't measure by bathroom breaks.
So
and let's not take. Who's counting here?
All right. Well, guys, it was really awesome hanging out with you.
Yeah,
Please
you guys
stay.
are like,
If you're still with
like
us.
famous and like the biggest band in Canada. Like, just remember you're on the afternoon pint.
Yeah. And Righteous is a song we're going to play at the end of
we
this
are.
episode. So one
Sweet.
last cheers. Thank you
Cheers.
so much. Cheers.
Oh, and brand new album coming out with lots of videos and totally wicked tour dates coming this spring that haven't been announced yet.
Cheers.
Right
Awesome.
on.
Yeah,
Cheers, guys.
Johnston.ca. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good night.
That was good.
Oh, wow.
I'm always like, what should I be talking about? I don't know.
Righteous for one person to be a little too righteous, oh for me. Righteous for one person to be a little too righteous, oh for me. Slow down, man, on taking a stand.